Good afternoon to our listeners and our audience tuning in online and on audio. My name is Athi Mbete, and I am your host of today's show of Build Your Business. And we are on episode 3 and with an iconic guest, if I can say. And we were discussing on the topic of about unlocking the power of your personal branding and personal mastery in your entrepreneurial journey. I've got a sensational, wonderful guest today. As I've mentioned earlier on, she's an iconic person. And before I proceed onwards, good afternoon, Nadima. You're welcome today.
Thank you so much, Athi, for having me. I'm so excited to be online with your listeners and your viewers. And I know you and I are going to certainly have interesting conversation about the life of entrepreneurship because it is
Yes,
not for sissies, right? It's certainly
absolutely.
not for sissies. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it.
Great. It's such an honor to have you in studio, and thank you so much for coming through. Like I've mentioned earlier on, you are such an iconic person. And the reason I say you are iconic is the fact that you embody your personal brand, who you are, in a nutshell. Do you have anybody you would like to give a special shout out before we proceed?
Definitely no shout outs, but I'm in such immense gratitude just that I can share my journey with, fellow entrepreneurs or those that are wanting to start out. And I
Certainly.
think it's certainly, there's a need to create more spaces around entrepreneurship and not just to talk about finance, funding, the branding and the marketing, but certainly your
Mm,
mindset around entrepreneurship. So
certainly.
I'm so no specific shout outs. I'm always thankful and blessed to have God guide me in this direction that I can
Yeah.
do this for others. So yeah, I think that's just the crux of it is that we can start having more intentional conversations around entrepreneurship because it, like I said earlier, it certainly isn't easy.
Fantastic. Now, just a bit of an intro or a bio about Nadeema. Those who do not know her, her name is Nadeema Kahan. And just as I'm quickly reading over her bio, it says that she studied psychology and behavioral science. She began a career at 12 years. She began a 12-year career as an education and consumer relations manager for L'Oreal South Africa and Africa. She has been working with prestigious brands like Lancôme, Giorgio Armani, Ralph Lauren, and Diesel. Nadeema has been a seasoned skills presenter. She's a facilitator, a coach, and an inspirational speaker in the areas of personal branding, image, etiquette, presenting and communication skills, leadership and personal transformation skills in corporate organizations for over 2 decades. She has wowed thousands of men and women, and I believe that she's also going to wow you today with a vibrant personality tongue in a chic humor and powerful message. She assists the A to Z of top local and international companies, as well as previously worked with Miss South Africa organization in preparation in preparing the top 12 and Miss South Africa. And Miss South Africa apologies for that. And Miss South Africa to portray the most professional impression on an ongoing basis. She's also worked with various Miss South Africas as their personal branding, image, and communications coach. She holds an international accreditation in personal branding and impression management. She is qualified as an NLP practitioner, as John has mentioned earlier on, and personal mastery coach, a global brand focused on intentional and authentically inspired mindful living tools and mechanisms to assist individuals and corporates survive in a volatile, uncertain, ambiguous, and complex world. Thank you so much once more, Nadima, for your time.
Thank you.
Such a mouthful, such a beautiful introduction about who you are. But do you mind telling somebody who's tuning in for the first time, who Nadima is, her background, her childhood, her upbringing as well?
Yeah. Oh gosh, how much time do we have? I'm Nadeema. I'm originally from KZN. I always say I'm a Zulu girl.
Yes.
I miss the beach. I miss home. I'm based in Johannesburg currently. Have been here for 25 years, and I think with all of us, when we're starting our careers or wanting to start business, we move to the city of gold,
Mhm.
where dreams are made.
Yes.
And certainly Johannesburg has been so incredible to me. I had this phenomenal career working for an international company, L'Oreal. And what I loved at the time, I matriculated in 1994 when the entire country changed.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so doors were open that didn't exist before for people of color.
Yes. Yeah.
And having worked for an international conglomerate, I mean, L'Oreal is the number one cosmetic
Of
giant in the
course.
world,
Yes. Yeah. Still
and
today, even now.
yeah, absolutely. And I think the interesting thing for me was they never really cared about my color. They cared about my
Mm.
attitude and my willingness and my
Mhm.
eagerness.
Mhm.
And I certainly used that to my advantage. Because when I started in the business, believe it or not, my story is, even though I was qualified in this
Mhm.
incredible degree, psychology, behavioral science, I started as the receptionist. Because
Oh.
yeah, I know, right? I started as the receptionist. They didn't know what to do with me. That was the only position available. And my
Mhm.
journey with L'Oreal, in fact, started when I was a student.
Okay.
So I used to work for them. I was one of the girls on the cosmetic counter, the fragrance counter while I was
At
studying
the
through UNISA.
store. Yeah.
Yes, so I've had this extensive relationship with them prior to me even working in a career-focused
Mhm.
environment.
Mhm.
And it just felt like home when I moved to
Mm.
Johannesburg. And I always say, we always got to look at who or what is the low hanging fruit that can
Yeah.
create opportunities and open doors for us.
Correct.
And so I reached out to them and they were like, what do we do with you? We don't need anybody that studied organizational psychology and behavioral science.
Yeah.
So the only thing they had was the receptionist. And of course, the ego took over. And I was like, what? The receptionist? No way.
What
I've
the
studied for,
qualifications that you have.
right? And I've studied for so many years and I need to be the receptionist. And then obviously the reality kicks in and says, like, listen,
Mm.
my darling, put the ego to bed.
Yeah.
It's a foot in the door and you're going to be so strategic about it. And I think I was in the receptionist position for not even 3 or 4 months. And they created a position for me because even though I was the receptionist, I was very clear in how I was going to create, define, design, and show up in my personal brand. So everybody
Mm.
knew me. I was the go to
Mm.
girl. Even if it wasn't my job, I would find the right person. I knew
Mm.
everybody's names, their kids. The DHL driver that didn't even work for
Mhm.
L'Oreal, he would walk through the door and I'd know him
Mm.
and his kids and what grade they were in. And also being an only child, connection
Mhm.
is so vital for me.
Wow.
So as much as it was a strategy, I enjoyed connecting with people and just showing up and being of service because I think in every way, no matter whether you're the radio presenter, the coach, or even the tea lady for that matter.
Mhm.
Are we still online? Yes, sorry, I just saw a
Yep.
glitch. Or the tea lady for that matter, when we do something, when we do
Mhm.
anything and we do it with purpose and love
Yeah.
and intention, we
Yeah.
always of service. It's not
Yeah.
always people with a fancy title that have Instagram or social media platforms that are of service. I
Yeah.
always say, if you imagine that you work in a corporate and the tea lady is no longer there for the day, she's off ill.
Mm. Yeah.
Man, do you miss the tea lady? When she's there,
100%.
you take her for granted. But
Yes.
when she's not there, you feel that pinch. So when she's there, she's of full service. And that
Mm.
was really my mentality when I was there. And I went on to have this incredible 13-year career working with the most powerful brands, Giorgio Armani, Ralph Lauren,
Wow.
Lancôme, Diesel,
Wow.
traveling
Yeah.
the world. This little
Oh,
girl
wow.
from South Africa, doing big things internationally, and it was pure bliss, and it never felt
I
like
can
work.
imagine.
Listen, if you like to look good and feel good, L'Oreal's the place to work
I
for.
can imagine.
And
And I mean, you embody and
yeah,
you exude that. And
and
I mean, tell me, was it always your dream as a young girl to be part of a global organization like L'Oreal? Or did you
not
intend to be something else when you studied industrial psychology?
not in the least. It wasn't even something I wanted to study all my
Mhm.
life. I always knew that I wanted to help people. And
Okay.
in my mind, I had this vision of being a physiotherapist, because I'm so connected to how the brain and the body works together, and when it's in disconnect and it's not
Yeah.
working. And at the time as well, my mom was diagnosed with really intense or severe rheumatoid arthritis. And I just thought, oh, I could study this and I could help my mom and I could help other people. And again, qualifying or completing matric in 1994, we moved into a very new democratic South Africa.
Yeah.
Doors were opened up. And unfortunately, there were so few, again, people of my color coming from a colored community where we were accepted into university. The numbers were a lot smaller in terms of studying physiotherapy in that space. So I wasn't selected for that program, but I just knew that there was something I wanted to do and I needed to make a difference. And I discovered psychology, but also as an only child, I think, and again, God just moves you in directions that you never quite understand in your younger years, in your adolescence. And as you get older, there's such wisdom and discernment that comes with life's lessons.
Yes.
And as an only child, I'm always intrigued by people, and I used to watch people all the time. And I always hung out with my mom's cousins who are older, and I would listen to how they speak and their own issues, and I was like, this is fascinating. I want to know more. What makes you do this? Why do you think like that? Why do I operate from this premise? And you can see how excited I get. I'm so passionate about people.
I know
and
it
how
comes
the brain
through
works.
the glee in your face, like being fascinated by people and their minds.
Exactly. And I thought this would be such a great transition. But I knew I needed to somehow play in the business space and the corporate space, which is why I went specifically into organizational, industrial psychology. And it was so incredible because I never ever thought I would have worked for L'Oreal. I guess I also anticipated this very formal, stiff jobs.
Yes.
I land up at this incredible organization, fascinating industry that changes all the time. It's about the glitz and the glamour. And I could still use my skills, even in something that may, from the outside, look like a very superficial trade. It's all about the beauty.
Yes.
And I think what was so powerful for me, because I had learned about human development and behavior. So when that customer called in and, she'd be so desperate to find a particular lipstick, for example. And when you dig slightly deeper, it's not really about the lipstick. It's about how the lipstick made her feel. Because she's either just had a breakup with her boyfriend, she's going for an interview and she's needing to feel powerful and step into her space. Or, her marriage is in a shambles and she's just trying to find some kind of self-worth. So as much as we deem the beauty industry as being superficial, on a deeper psychological level, I think it's so healing for people. We may not understand it unless we go through it ourselves. And there's such, it changes people's mindsets and their self-worth. A lipstick, a fragrance, clothing for that matter, how you put it on and how it makes you feel.
Absolutely. No, I can attest personally to myself. I mean, especially during the time of COVID, I made it a point that, to keep the discipline, I'd prepare myself like I'm actually going into the office and put on my makeup. And you're so right in terms of the mindset. What it actually does to your mind is it shows that you're prepared. You're actually feeling good about yourself. And when you feel good about yourself, it has an impact as well inwards.
Absolutely. It certainly drives our behavior. And
Agreed.
how people perceive us as well.
Yes.
If you think about casual Fridays, and when we were in a more physical environment, I always just think about how people arrive on a Friday. They're there physically, but their mind's already on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Because also they dressed more casually. The energy is different, and it's exactly the same. And this is why on a Monday morning, we're wearing the 3-piece suit, or we're getting dressed up that we're more in a sort of formal, this formal workspace, this formal work mentality, how I'm showing up in the start of the week versus the end.
And tell me, Nadima, from kickstarting your career with such an amazing global brand, and then what was it your dream ever before to be an entrepreneur? Was it something that was in your pipeline, your dream to eventually move and shift into something like coaching, or did it just happen on its own? Tell us about that.
None of the above.
Okay.
I don't even think, and here again, coming from the societal conditioning, you have to work for somebody else to be successful. Finish
Correct.
school, go to university. That's going to guarantee you success.
Mm.
Have the 9 to 5 job, and I think it also just comes from our parents. That was their indoctrination, their
And the system as well, or how we're raised, the
yes,
education system. Yeah.
absolutely, and we could only do so much.
Mm.
And I think that the real driver and incentive for me was in my last few years at being at L'Oreal, I had stepped into a training director role, and it was phenomenal. Even though I was
Mm.
teaching cosmetics and fragrance, I would just see people's lives change.
Mm-hmm.
And and as an only child, I love talking. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
want to talk to everybody. So
Yes.
I really enjoyed being in
From
that
the tea
space.
lady right up, the delivery guys.
Security, everybody. And then I discovered that I had this natural ability
Mm-hmm.
through how I connect with people to change
Mm.
lives, to bring light. And again, stepping into this entrepreneurial world wasn't planned. Well, I
Okay.
certainly didn't, but God certainly did.
I love
And I,
that.
and I think you and I have had this conversation before
It's
when we first
yes,
met.
we did. Yes.
God whispers. He whispers and
Mm.
he whispers, and you're like,
I
oh,
love
now
that.
I've got my life in control. I know what I'm doing. I'm in the driver's seat. And
Yeah.
he whispered and he whispered for 2 years. And I'll never forget. At the time, I was dating Robin Banks, the mind power expert, and he kept on
Mm-hmm.
saying to me, babe, you've been saying you're going to leave L'Oreal for 2 years. You're still in the
Mm.
same place. And I
Mm.
wasn't leaving because I didn't like the organization or I didn't like what I did. I loved the organization. I loved what I did. But
Yeah.
there was the spark in me that was saying, there's something more. You need to do something more.
Mm.
You've had this incredible study
Mm-hmm.
of 3 and 4 years of studying. You've done what you've needed to. You've seen the world. You've learned incredible tools. But surely there's something else out there, Nadima, that's a lot more impactful in
Yeah.
how you're going to engage with people. And again, the ego keeps us stuck.
Yeah.
The ego likes comfort. The ego hates
Absolutely.
anything unknown and fearful.
Disrupting, yes.
Yeah, we even if it's painful, we stay. Even if it's so
Mm.
uncomfortable, because the
Mm-hmm.
ego knows it, we continue.
Yeah.
And this is when God began to whisper. And at the time, I just had such a disconnection with my GM. And I was like, oh my word, I can't. there was just such a disconnection. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember it was during my fasting period in Ramadan. And it was the hardest time for me ever in my career, but it was the best spiritual month that I was in. And I
Mm.
remember going to the office one morning at 6 o'clock, and I cried my eyes out because here was this 13-year career that I knew it was time.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful
I
career.
literally
Mm.
warning that it was time.
Mm-hmm.
And I handed in my resignation, and they obviously begged me to stay. And there was a part of me that wanted to, because again, where was I going? I didn't even have a plan, Athi.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah.
I
Being
can't.
uprooted from stability, and
Exactly.
everything that you've known for over the years. And
Yeah,
suddenly, like a rug
and
being pulled.
and God puts people in your lives to shake you.
I love
And
that.
and
Mm.
fortunately and unfortunately, the GM at the time really challenged my own moral compass. There were
Mm-hmm.
certain things that, from a place of integrity, I couldn't connect with, and I just thought,
Mm-hmm.
my journey here is over. So I sat there, wrote up my resignation, handed it in. There was the back and forth, stay, leave. And I was like, no, this is it. If I don't jump now, I'm never going to. Because listen,
Mm.
I earned an incredible salary at L'Oreal. He had these perks of flying all over the world, experiencing all the products they offered. So it
Yeah.
was really incredible. But I thought, really, how short lived can that be? And I
Correct.
jumped actually without a job. I left, and which was fearful. But again, as an only child, I never learned from anyone else. I always just learned from my own mistakes.
Yeah.
And I jumped, and I sat at home for 3 months, and I didn't know what to do. I had all this time on my hands. I was phoning friends, and I was saying to them, let's go for coffee and let's go for lunch. And they're like, no, we work. We don't have
Yeah,
time.
the real world, the reality out there. People are working, they're employed.
Exactly. And then I started a baby massage business, which boomed. And then I started a sports
Wow.
massage business, and that boomed. But it wasn't challenging enough for me. And it was incredible and so interesting that an ex service provider to myself and my team at L'Oreal, who was in the training space, contacted me and said, hey, I hear you're no longer working at L'Oreal. Do you want to do some contract training for us? And that was literally how my business started 17 years ago.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and honestly, you know, when I think of this general manager that just made my life so difficult in so many ways, and like I say, fortunately and unfortunately, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have jumped. And
Absolutely.
now I get to play in this space, and I use the word play because I never feel like I go to work and go, oh my word, do I have to go there today again? Do I have to get up for work? Do I have to deal with those people again? And I'm one of the very few. I have to also acknowledge that not everybody has that experience.
Privilege. Yeah.
Yeah, and the privilege of that.
And the privilege.
And yeah, and so I'm very thankful that these whispers happened. And you know,
And
eventually
the
God,
nudges as well, and the thorns in the flesh that came through people as well,
absolutely,
that were in your path.
absolutely. And you know, God whispers and whispers, and eventually gives you this universal clap to say, you have to move now. I've got a bigger
It's
plan
now,
for you. Yeah.
mm,
And I didn't
and
see it
taking
at the
that jump.
time. Completely. And it was the best thing I've ever done. Um, so I do come from a family of entrepreneurs. There are a couple of other things that I do as well, but it wasn't something I was focused on. I was so focused on being in this corporate world, the safety, etc. And
Yeah.
jumping without the net was the scariest thing, but also the most exhilarating because I'm a bit of a daredevil.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it pushed me to make my business work because
Yeah.
I had no
Because there's
safety net.
nothing else to land on. It had to
Exactly.
work or not.
Absolutely. And, you know, the business grew, and I then started consulting for other people. And then those relationships ended as well. And through experience and certainly failure with working with other people and your own inexperience in a business
Mm.
of how things are done, etc. I was very clear after my hard knocks that I was going to focus on me being the business,
I
not
love
me
that.
plugging in into other people to get business in. I was going to step into my personal brand completely, and I was going to be the star of the show. I
Yeah.
was going to be the face of the organization.
Mm.
And again, because, and I think that worked for me because everything I did operated from my value system.
Correct.
Did I
Now,
make
just,
mistakes? Yeah.
yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Nadima.
Did I make mistakes? Absolutely. But when you step into this entrepreneurial space, it's about failing fast and move forward. You know, if you're going to sit there and pick at things, there's no safety net. So it's a matter of, okay,
Mm.
I messed up, this didn't work. How do I bounce back quickly? And
Exactly.
it creates resilience. And I think that is certainly one of the tools entrepreneurs need:
They
resilience
need.
and grit.
And great. And
Yes.
coming back to the fact that you were in corporate for such a long time, I can only imagine, how did you go about in transitioning your mind, from somebody who'd been in corporate into the mindset of a boss? Because I think that
Yes.
those are two different mindsets, and people really struggle when they have to go into business or go on their own to actually
Yes.
apply the mind of a boss. Take us through that.
You know, I must be honest, Ati, for me, it was the most advantageous thing that I did come from corporate,
Okay.
because corporate has systems in place that
Correct.
allows things to work well, right? This is why corporates
Mm,
run like a well-oiled machine. So when I
mm,
stepped into my own entity and became more serious about my business,
yeah.
because I think in the beginning, like I say, I was plugging into everybody else's business. They were hiring me to contract for them. And until I got really serious about my own business, it was using those processes. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's the beauty in it.
Mm,
You worked in a corporate environment and scale it down to an SME, scale it
I hear you.
down to that startup. You know, things like, so one of the things that happen often, and I know you certainly know that, is meetings in corporate. We have meetings about meetings and check-up meetings and check-in meetings and one of the things that kept me honest in my business and accountable was that on a Friday, every Friday, I would have a meeting with myself. I know it sounds weird.
I love that. Yes,
I
I
would,
actually remember. I actually remember when you had your coaching session that you were doing during COVID, and it was a free sort of like master class for a couple of days that you offered, and I think that's where we connected. And you were definitely one of the people that really sort of like hit the spark, just to remind me who I am and how to transition and move forward in the disruption. So
absolutely.
definitely like, yeah.
And one of the things, and what I love about that process is that, so I'm a one person in my business show. So I have other trainers or coaches that work with me, and they then go
You
out and we
collaborate
work on
with, yeah.
projects together. But it is me all the time. So I don't have somebody that I report into, So for me to be accountable and also responsible and keep me honest in my business, so I set this meeting with myself every Friday. I put it in my diary as a formal meeting. I have an agenda.
Wow.
And I go through the agenda. What's the strategy for next week? What's the plan for social media? Am I taking a break? And it's all of these things that either help my business grow or stifle me that I need to look at, because the things that are working well, I want to continue doing that. The areas where I've had challenges in, and this is why it's so important to have that honest conversation with yourself in this meeting. Who didn't I work well with this week? What was my trigger? What could I do differently next week to gain momentum, to create more profit, to put the brand out there, etc. And these are the conversations I have, and it's all documented. Because I need notes, obviously, like anybody in a corporate, you have minutes. It's not as formal as that, excuse me, but I certainly keep a record of what I discussed in my own mind and what the plan is. So next week, I'm not just blindly walking through the conditioning and, the autopilot that sometimes we can be in.
I hear you.
So every week, I'm very clear that I need to be better than I was last week. Better doesn't always mean the person that's making the most money at the moment, because better could also be, as an entrepreneur, I'm honoring the fact that, so last week, for example, I don't work Fridays at all. That's my gift to myself.
I love
so
that.
I have a long weekend. Every weekend, I don't work Fridays. I'm very intentional about that. So Monday to Thursday last week, I'm running I don't know if you had seen it, I'm running a group online coaching program for women for the next 4 months, and we just kicked off in May. And last week was our individual one-on-one sessions. So I coached 18 women between Monday and Thursday outside of my regular clients.
Wow.
So I had to honor myself, knowing that next week, which was this week, it was about filling my own cup.
I love that. And I definitely love what you mentioned, and you take time for yourself, because I was just actually having a conversation with my sister that we are always on this run, especially as an entrepreneurs, and we're sort of like our own bosses, that you constantly need to move when the body or things around you are telling you to quiet down and just to reflect. So I'm really taking that with me, that take time to reflect, take time to take stock and be accountable. Look at the progress that you've achieved so far, and just being this person who's constantly reflecting on your entrepreneurial journey. It's totally powerful. I definitely love that. And I hope also our audience who are tuning in today are definitely taking that as well for themselves. Now, you talk about bettering yourself as an entrepreneur, and you are a personal mastery coach or architect, if I can say, and an NLP coach. What are those effective tools that you would recommend, to somebody who's an entrepreneur, besides what you've shared with us so far, to master themselves so that they are better entrepreneurs, better bosses, better, whatever they are in their field of operation as businesses?
Yeah, I think it's important to also decide if you have staff that work for you, what
Mhm.
type of leader are you showing up as?
I love
Because
that.
the culture and the energy of your business, whether you work alone or you have a team working with you, whether it's a product or a service that you're offering,
Mm,
is determined by the energy that you show up as.
I love that.
So a big part of what I teach is intentional living. Um, and I think that's what comes with mastery, whether you are mastering your business or yourself. When you are
Mhm.
intentional about how you are showing up, that's the first point. Because as entrepreneurs, as you mentioned earlier, it's the chasing, it's having to show up all the
Yeah.
time. There's very
Constant.
seldom sick days, right? Whereas
Mhm.
you have leave and you have sick days in a corporate environment, and it's a lot
Mm,
safer. The world of
mm,
entrepreneurship is, sometimes you're dodging bullets because it's so volatile out there. And
correct.
we've all felt, and I think especially as small businesses, we've all felt the pinch, especially coming into a global pandemic that we had absolutely no control over. So be intentional about how you start your day.
Mhm.
That's the first thing for me always. Because again, the energy that you're putting out into the day is going to be a reflection of what you get back. Be intentional about your
Mm,
language. In the Bible and many of the holy books, they talk about the power of your tongue.
yes.
What are you manifesting? Are you
Mm,
speaking life or death over your business? Oh
mhm.
my word, it's so hard. I'm struggling out there. I'm never going to make any money. If that's the language you're putting out into the universe, that will be your response that you get back.
Mm,
So being mindful of your language and your thoughts are just as important, and your feelings. And and I'm not saying pretend that everything is fine, because that's toxic positivity.
correct.
It's
Yeah.
about acknowledging that, last month was tough. I didn't have
Mhm.
money to pay my staff, but how am I going to do this differently? How am
Yeah.
I going to change? Because if you're operating from a place of insanity, as Albert Einstein said, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, you live in the heights of insanity.
Absolutely.
So, the quickest way that you can change the trajectory of your business is through your mindset,
I love that.
through your intention.
Yeah, because
Um,
it all begins, it starts here. It starts with your mind.
Absolutely. Think about, and I want you to think about this, Athi, right? And I'm sure we've all been there. I know I certainly have. And to the viewers that are watching and listening, you wake up one morning, the alarm clock goes off, you kind of hit snooze, it rings again, you fall off to sleep, so you're late. Then, and of course, we live in South Africa, there's load shedding, so you can't iron your clothes for your important meetings. The traffic lights are out. You
Yeah.
spill coffee on your shirt, but you got to rush out the door. How does the rest of your day unfold?
Mm,
Exactly the same. All you seem to do is attract all the things that will annoy you for that day.
mhm.
And yet you wake up in the morning, you're intentional about how you've gotten up, you've checked in with yourself, you've checked in with your body, you've prayed, you've connected with your creator, and you're starting that day feeling so full. The rest of your day unfolds in the most beautiful of ways, because you are holding a
Mm.
frequency and an energy of abundance. When we are in complain, we are in name, shame, and blame, we are in
Mhm.
nurse, curse, and rehearse, we
Yeah.
are operating from a scarcity mindset and a mindset of lack. So if you are an entrepreneur and you are saying to yourself every day, oh my word, I never have enough money at the end of the month. I never have enough money at the end of the month. Again, look at what you're speaking into the
Yes.
world.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are manifesting it, you know? So language and mindset is so key. You can have the best marketing in place, the best branding, social media accounts. You could have thousands of followers. But if you are not holding
Mm.
the energetic space, and if you are not taking up space knowing that this is your birthright, because we
Wow.
all we all have this opportunity to step into abundance. And I want to say to the viewers out there and the listeners, there's a huge misconception about what abundance is. It's not
Mhm.
always money, it's
I love,
abundant health.
please break it down because everybody does this
Right?
connotation when you talk of prosperity, when you talk of
Yes.
abundance, it's always associated with resources and especially from a financial perspective.
Yes. And then look, this is why we get into business. Otherwise, what's the point? We want to make
Correct.
money.
Yeah. We-
But for those, and I'm going to put this out there as a challenge to anyone listening who is running a business and you are struggling financially, I want you to be mindful of your thoughts. Don't attach too much energy to that. Don't obsess about not having. I want you to sit down and every day, I mean, today's Thursday, every day for the next 7 days. And you can do it alone, or you could do it with your staff around the boardroom table, even virtually if you're not back in the office. I want you to write down 5 things that you're grateful for every single day in your business. And as soon as we start paying attention and having a laser focus on what is working well, the brain then reconditions itself to look out for more elements in our environment and internally of what is sitting in that space of abundance, what looks prosperous, what feels prosperous. So it's silly things like, and I use the word silly because normally we just kind of brush it under the table. You know, you have a colleague. So let's say you're struggling in your business. There's more month at the end of your money, as they say. And you're just thinking, oh my word, it's so difficult. But here you have a friend that calls you up and says, I haven't seen you for a while. Let's go out for lunch. It's on me. There's your abundance. It's the smallest
I
things.
love how you actually challenging us to change our perspective and the lens of how we look at life and how we're doing business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the little things. And again, be laser focused on what is going right. The stuff that's going wrong will need to be fixed and handled anyway. You know, it needs to be reworked, whatever it is that it is happening in your business that's not working too well. But it's about getting the mindset right, being intentional about how you start your day. Because if you are a leader in your organization and you're the one always complaining and walking around like a dark thunder cloud, how do you think your staff are going
Certainly
to
going to
then?
have a ripple effect. You know, the oil flows from the head down. Even the Bible says so, that it will flow from the head. And so it starts here with you, the mind, the upper area.
Absolutely. And you know, and I truly believe that when you have a team that work for you, you lead from the front. You never shout and bark answers and like, you guys need to be doing this. Sometimes they just need you to step up and lead from the front, and their motivation changes, their inspiration changes. So they're not feeling so overwhelmed. And if there's one thing I can say to entrepreneurs, you know, like I say, we get the funding right, the branding right, the marketing right.
Yeah.
If your business is still stuck, I don't use the word struggling. If you're still in a space of challenge, find yourself a coach. Find yourself a business coach, a mentor, somebody that has the experience as well as the tools to help you move into your next level. But saying that, I'm also going to say that every next level of you or your business will demand a next level version of you.
Wow.
So always make sure that you are learning and growing. I mean, we learn from the cradle to the grave. It's never ending. I've been on my own personal mastery journey for 28 years now. I started when I was 18.
That's amazing.
So it's been a long journey.
Amazing. Yeah.
Not always an easy journey, but a journey that has been worthwhile and has brought so many gifts. And I've been teaching this for almost 22 years. And even though I've been doing this for so long, I still need a mentor. I still need a coach. There are things that I don't proclaim to know. I can't know everything. It's impossible.
Correct. Yeah.
So if I want to be a next level version of me, who am I hanging out with? As entrepreneurs, networking is your golden ticket. It will open doors for you like you cannot imagine. That coupled with great business etiquette, by the way. Network. I was actually at an event last night. It was so fascinating, that was hosted by His Excellency the Ambassador of the Netherlands. And it was for startups and businesses that have been around for a while. And it was just so fascinating, some of the statistics, and I'd love to share them with you because I just quickly...
Yeah, please do. I think they'll be very insightful to our audience.
This, unfortunately, is not South African based. We don't know the numbers in South Africa. This is obviously coming out of the USA. And it says that approximately 20% of new businesses fail during the first 2 years of being open.
Correct. Yeah. Either make it or break it.
Yeah. 45% the next 5 years, and 65% within the first 10 years. Those numbers are so high. So,
and we can only imagine for South Africa, which probably chances are even
probably,
higher.
much
I
higher,
mean,
much
we call
higher.
the dark continent, and it's not easy to start a business here in this country.
Absolutely. But listen, at the same time, we are so resilient. And I think that's
Yeah.
the beauty of the country we live in. But having just listened to those numbers and knowing also the geography in the marketplace right now around, lots of businesses have the potential to be funded and, supported, etc. But there's so few people helping mindset, moving mindset, shifting
Yeah.
mindset. As I
Yeah.
mentioned when we started the interview, entrepreneurship is not for sissies. And it's also not for everyone. I want people
Yeah.
to be very clear about that. A lot of
Yeah.
people feel like they're going to leave their corporate job, they're going to start this
Just because of
business.
one idea that they think is great. An idea is not
Absolutely.
enough.
You have to have the grit, the resilience, the tenacity, and the passion to drive your business. And also the tools and the skills of when things go wrong. How do you manage failure? And this is why so many businesses don't last, because we try once or twice, and the mental exhaustion that comes with failure and not being good enough and not being worthy cripples us, that we never try again.
Yeah,
So,
many don't recover. You actually
not
don't
at
recover
all.
and don't come back. And I love the word that you used earlier on, is that we become stuck and we
Yes,
do not come up. And it's a mental stuck more than even a financial stuck. And many people do not know how to come out of that and re-emerge again, which I
absolutely.
believe it's something that happened a lot, Nadima, during the period of COVID. A
Mm,
lot of businesses collapsed,
yes,
and people didn't know how to reinvent themselves again. And that's why I was so excited to bring you in studio, because I know this is the area that you purely focus on,
yes,
dealing with the mind of a person, and particularly that of entrepreneurs as
yes.
well. Tell us more about your business, if you don't mind unpacking for
Not
us
a problem.
what exactly you do.
So I have two units in my business, or two divisions in my business. One where I offer learning and development skills in the corporate space. So your essential skills, EQ, people leadership, things that we're most comfortable with in the training space as an employee. The training that you're going to get in-house or be sent away for training. And for me, one of the things that was also a surprise was that as we had gone into COVID, I had gone back into my coaching business a lot more. I was also
Yeah,
intentional about it just before we went into lockdown.
yeah,
And the coaching space has boomed over the last 2 years, because we were in
yeah.
this, I
There's
don't even
all
like to
types
call
of coaches. Yes.
yeah. And everybody just mushroomed, and there were coaches popping up everywhere. And I think it's a beautiful thing, because in love down, as I like to call it, I don't like to use the word lockdown, in love down,
No,
we
I'm
really needed, I'm all about the language in the brain.
stealing
I
that
see.
phrase.
You're so welcome. And it gave us an opportunity to really look at who we were. What did we really want? There were lots of people that had jobs that were also questioning, is this really where I want to be? Is this really how I see the next 5 years playing out for me in this corporate job? Not really happy. I have this passion, etc. And I found that this is where I was doing a lot more work in the last 2, almost 3 years, was coaching, in the coaching space, was coaching people. And I always say I love giving people mastery tools that they live an intentional life, so that
Okay.
they can thrive in love, business, and in their personal space and in their workspace. And it's really from moving from mediocrity into mastery. And that may sound
Mm,
very aggressive. Oh, mediocrity. How do you call me mediocre?
mm,
You
mm,
decide if you're mediocre or not.
mm.
Also, we live in a world where everything around us is demanding more of us, our time, our quality, the way we show up. There's just more of a
Yes.
demand. So we
Yes,
will always be in a state of mediocrity when we get to that level and we need to up level again. Then you move into mastery
correct.
again,
Always a better
so
version of you that needs to appear.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So the work that I do, Athi, and it is there is a huge focus with entrepreneurs where we look at their personal brand, where I look at their personal brand, but I'm not looking at it strategically from a marketing point of view. I bring in
And
the
that's where the
psychology
mistake
behind it.
is when people think about branding. It's the
They
marketing
think that's
element.
the only aspect.
Yeah.
So for somebody who is the ambassador of their brand, how are you showing up? What is your mindset? What's your body
Mm.
language like? What's your communication style like? You pitching for funding, you sending out a proposal. Do you have all those tools to make you a champion, a brand champion? Or are
Mm.
those the tools that you need to learn? And and having said that as well, it goes still a whole lot deeper, where between the ages of 0 and 7, this is where our core beliefs about ourselves are created through our environment and our caregivers. So I may be an entrepreneur, I may be earning money, but there's this one cycle and pattern that just keeps coming up. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe or this feeling attached to this feeling of maybe I'm
Yeah.
not worthy enough.
Imposter
Maybe I'm
syndrome
not
as
good
well.
enough. Imposter syndrome, which is driven by those beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So in the work that I do, I have this 6-month program called the Yes Journey. In the first 2 months, which is so impactful, is that we go back to your childhood. And through me using certain cues, I am able to take your brain or your subconscious mind to certain points in your life where
Okay.
we reframe that limiting belief you have about yourself. I'm not good at math.
Mm.
I'm I was always told as a child I'd never make it. I would never make something of myself. Um, I'm I'm the delinquent, or I'm the rebel in the class, and the teacher always said you won't amount to anything because you're such a rebel and a bully, and that's the person that could be the next Richard Branson of the world.
Mm.
And it's just changing a belief system that is stored in the brain and the subconscious mind to mean something else, to reframe it, the meaning that we give experiences we have in our life. And as soon as we shift that and change that, it almost unlocks parts of our brain that say, hey, I can do this. I'm meant for more. We literally and physically and mentally step into our power. And it's the most empowering thing for me to see when my client shifts into this. There's a particular technique I use called timeline therapy. And I've used it on many of my entrepreneurial clients who are feeling stuck in their business, have amazing products and services, but just
Yeah.
couldn't, they just couldn't get there. Everybody else in the
Yeah.
industry that's selling a similar product or the exact same
You're
product or service
progressing. Yeah.
is they're making it rain, right? And here these clients are just stuck. So in this timeline, we look at your present state, which is you and I today, and we go into the timeline of your life from conception. And we go
Mm.
find the day this limiting belief was created in your life. And then we shift it through certain language. We shift it through giving it a new meaning, which means you unlock this part of you that's made you play small. And you step into a new mindset of prosperity and abundance. I had a particular young lady work with me, and it was so incredible. We did her timeline walk. I'll never forget. It was a Monday, 1:30, and she had applied for this business, and she was getting the runaround from this organization, and they weren't coming back to her, and it was just a lot of hurdles and blocks, and it almost felt like it was just at her fingertips, and she couldn't get it,
Yeah.
and
And you
and
can
they
actually taste it, you can see it, but
exactly.
you can't get on the other
You
side.
just exactly. And she got to that point where she just said, you know what, it's not for me. And we
Mm.
did this timeline, and they almost took themselves out of the picture for 2 weeks. And they just said, oh, we'll get back to you. They were interviewing other people. And that evening at 7:15, she sent me a WhatsApp going, oh my word, Deems, they just sent me a contract. They didn't even confirm that she had gotten the job. They just sent the contract through, and she now earns almost 7 times more than the figure she had put on the table.
That is absolutely mind
It's
blowing.
insane. And I think of when I did my own timeline walk, it was incredible. And for me it was, and I'll share this with the viewers, I held the belief, or the limiting belief, of I wasn't good enough, I wasn't worthy, I come from a single parent home,
Yeah,
father issues, abandonment, rejection, and we don't realize how it plays out in our lives, in our
exactly.
business, in
Even
our
in our
money
businesses as
story,
well.
in our
Yeah.
relationships. And when I did my timeline walk 4 days later, so I needed to shift that not feeling good enough and worthy enough.
Hmm. Hmm.
4 days later, I got a call from a random stranger that I'd never met in my corporate training business. It was a referral, and this person said, "Listen, I've heard the most amazing things about you. Can we do some training for my staff?" And because I was feeling so raw coming out of this very deep emotional experience I had a few days
Hmm.
before, and I had enough money in the bank, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to send this person a ridiculous quote because I'm really not feeling this right now. I'm not ready to go back out in the world
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
yet. I want to sit with this
Hmm.
stuff and just process it. I send this ridiculous quote out to him, Athi. Half an hour late, not even 15 minutes later, he mails me back. He says, "Great, can we start next week?" I have never in my entire training business, existence,
Yeah.
made 450,000 Rand for 6 days of work.
One transaction, one
One
deal,
transaction, one deal.
one
And
deal.
I was like, okay, I like
Oh
this.
my
I'm going to
goodness.
step into this new belief that I am so worthy and so abundant. I'm going to
Wow.
operate from my prosperity versus my lack. And my
Mm.
business has always stayed the same
At the same
that
level.
particular tool
Shift.
and technique and
Yeah.
shift.
Hmm.
It's been smooth sailing. And I'm not saying it's always
It's gonna
great.
be like
There aren't
that. Yeah.
issues in business
Yeah.
because listen, I can't control COVID.
Hmm.
I can't control when my client no longer can train his staff, complement is being reduced. Those are things I can't control.
Yeah. You can't
But
control the economy. Yeah.
exactly. But I control again my
It
mindset and
starts
how
with
I'm
you. Yeah.
choosing to show up.
Mm.
So one of the things, and it's a tool I'd love to give your listeners and your viewers, that again, when you're an entrepreneur, it's all about you. You are the
Mhm.
energy of that business. So one of the things I do in the morning before I start my day, and one of the things many people do before they start their day, as soon as they wake up, the first thing they do is they reach over for their phone, right?
True.
Checking
Yes.
social media, emails, messages, and
Mhm.
and I always say to my clients, how is it that you meet the world first and their energy that they bring into the day when you haven't even
Mhm.
met yourself?
Mm.
Think of how important that is. We just put our energy out there and it meets everybody else's energy and frequency and their attitude and their stuff. We haven't
Yeah.
even met ourselves in the morning. So the first
Exactly.
thing
And
I
those
do
things impact us for the rest of the
completely,
day because we didn't
completely.
condition ourselves first.
Yes, we didn't ground ourselves, whether it's in prayer or meditation, whatever it is that you do. So one of the things I do in the morning is before I even meet the world, I wake up in gratitude because if anything, COVID's taught us, not many woke up the next day, you know?
True. Yeah.
So I'm
Very true.
mindful of my breath. I'm conscious about taking deep breaths in because it means if I still have breath in my body, I'm alive. God's
Yeah.
granted me another day.
Hmm.
And then I do something called a body scan. I literally scan my body from head to toe because this is the vessel that is moving me through the day as an entrepreneur in whether my business is going to be a
Mm.
success today or whether I'm moving with less energy because maybe I need to give myself more grace because I've had a hectic week last week or a really
Understood.
stressful day yesterday. And
Mm.
in doing the body scan, I'm checking in with myself mentally, emotionally, and physically. I have a headache. What's that about? Oh my word, I'm stressing about not being able to send out my product or my supply is not being paid or I'm waiting for something from a vendor and they're not on time. It's going to impact my client. So
Hmm.
what's happening in your head? What are the thoughts swimming around in your head? Check yourself. Oh, I'm not
True.
feeling so great today. There's a sense of sadness. What is that about?
Where is
Or
it
I'm
coming
feeling
from?
yeah,
Yes.
or I'm so excited today. What is that about? It's not just about the negative stuff we're noticing. What is that about? Oh my word, I'm going to get to speak to Athi at 1 o'clock today, or I've got a group coaching session with my ladies this afternoon. Whatever it is that's getting you excited, acknowledge that as well. And as you go through your body, and then what I do is I then set one intention for the day, because what that does is it signals your brain that this is the GPS coordinates that we need to look out for the day. So today I intend to rest. Today I intend to honor my body and eat well. Today I intend to get more sleep. Today I intend to laugh more in my business. Today I
Yeah.
intend to have
Be
fun with my
gentle.
staff.
Be gentle, be loving, be more kind.
Exactly. Today I intend to focus on my business, with a different eye. I want to look at it through different eyes. Oh, today I want to spend more time reading scriptures and align it to my business and how I'm showing up, whatever it is for you. But when you set this intention, and it's just one intention for the day, the brain now has a coordinate that it needs to lock onto. And throughout the day, it's going to search for this coordinate, and it's going to show or manifest experiences and circumstances and people in your life that will align to your intention.
Absolutely powerful and so profound, Nadima. I'm so afraid that we would definitely love you to share your details for anyone who's looking for tools to be a brand champion, to deal with any imposter syndrome, any limiting beliefs that you have that you feel might be impacting your business, or you are feeling stuck and you don't know how to move on to your next level. Please do connect with Nadima. Do you mind sharing your details, Nadima?
Sure, absolutely.
Our listeners are able to connect with you.
So on Instagram, you will find me at the Nadeema Kahan, TheNadeema. My surname is Kahan, Kahan. And you'll find me on Facebook, Nadeema Kahan, Personal Mastery Architect. I also do offer a 30-minute free, no obligation coaching call. I guarantee you, book a call. I will give you at least one tool that will change your mindset.
Powerful. You've been such an amazing guest. I'd definitely love to have you in next time, because I feel that we couldn't capture or go over all the things that we planned for today. But I believe that our audience and everyone who's tuning in, whether online or on audio, was truly blessed. They definitely leaving today's show with another different mindset and perspective. And you feel that definitely you want to connect with Nadima, you're welcome to reach out to her on Instagram at the Nadeema Kahan, also on Facebook. That's Nadeema Kahan, Personal Mastery. Did I get that right?
That's correct. Personal Mastery Architect.
Personal Mastery Architect. We'll definitely share your details on our website and also on our Facebook page. But thank you so much more. It has been such a great delight and honor to have you in studio. Truly humbled. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And Athi, I'm going to put a challenge out to you. Since you are on this entrepreneurship education drive, why don't you and I run entrepreneurship workshop? Let's create something tangible to give these entrepreneurs.
100%. I'm always ready.
Right? So we're going to make magic.
No, definitely will connect. I'd definitely love to be part of that. I always believe in giving, sharing what we've learned, our mistakes, our successes and failures as well with people. And I'm all for not being withholding information from others. So I'm definitely part of it. Consider me.
Fantastic. We're definitely going to chat soon.
Thank you so much,
and stay blessed.
Stay blessed, you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And thank you so much to our listeners and viewers. That was Nadeema Kahan, a personal mastery architect and also an NLP coach. Once more, if you are looking to connect with her, she shared her details. We will be posting it as well on our Facebook page. Have a blessed time, and apologies once more for starting late and also finishing a bit late as well. Have an awesome day ahead. Thank you.